Okay, here are the answers that we didn't get to in class on our Chapter 1 practice test. I'm going to try to go fast here. For problem 1, we've got a positive 9 plus a negative 5, so that's going to give us a positive 4. For number 2, the rule is if you're multiplying two terms with different signs, you're going to end up with a negative. So I know my answer's got to be negative, and 16 times 8 is 128. Once again, negative 29 times 24, I know my answer is going to be negative, and those work out to a negative 696. Number 4, my answer is positive, since this is a positive times a positive. That's going to be positive 90, and boy, I really hope you didn't get number 5 wrong. 13 times 1. Anything times 1 is the number itself, so that's 13. Number 6, the rule holds for division. If I'm multiplying or dividing and I've got different signs, my answer is going to be negative. So a negative 68 divided by a positive 2 is a negative 34. Number 7, positive 88 divided by 8. You might be able to do that mentally, but if I want to do long division, 8 goes into 8 one time. 1 times 8 is 8. Bring down my 8. The answer is positive 11. Now this long division, the key is to move the decimal point in this number until you get a whole number. So 0.06 becomes 6 when I move the decimal point over twice, but I've got to move the decimal point over 2 spaces in the other number. So this becomes 780. So now 6 goes into 7 one time. 1 times 6 is 6. I bring down my 8. 6 goes into 18 3 times. 3 times 6 is 18. That's 0. So my answer is 130. Number 9, absolute value is the distance from 0 on a number line. So 18 is 18 units from 0 on the number line. I wasn't really concerned about you using this number line here. 18 plus negative 1 is a positive 17. It's just like subtracting. 18 plus negative 1 is exactly the same as 18 minus 1. 19 plus negative 19 plus negative 6. I've got 19 negatives. I add another 6 negatives. That means I have 25 negatives. You owe $5 to a friend. Write an integer to represent that situation. You owe that money. That means it's a negative 5. Negative $5. On to the second page. 9 plus 4.8. The key here is to make sure that your decimal points line up when you're adding or subtracting. So my answer is 13.8. There we are subtracting. I've got to make sure these decimal points line up. 18.613 minus 12.7. And I can annex zeros if I want to on that one, but 3 minus 0 is 3. 1 minus 0 is 1. I've got to borrow here, make this into a 7. 16 minus 7 is 9. Decimal point, they line up, so it comes down. 7 minus 2 is 5, and 1 minus 1 is 0. So my answer is 5.913. Hopefully when you see a problem like this, you estimate. You say, alright, that looks pretty close to 19, and that looks pretty close to 13. So my answer is going to be pretty close to 6. Since I came up with 5.913, yeah, that's pretty close to 6. Find the mean of the set of data. Alright, I've got to add all of these up and divide by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 values. So I add them all together, I divide by 8 values, the 8 values that we have, and my mean ends up being 32. 17. These are the sick days. If I want the mean, once again, I've got to add all of these up. These ones I can do mentally, so I'll do them. 4 plus 3 is 7, plus 1 is 8, and these all add up to 12. So 8 plus 12 is 20. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 values. So 9 goes into 22. I can bring down a 0. 9 goes into 20 again. 2.2. Oh, that's going to repeat, isn't it? So the answer will be 2.22. That is the mean. An outlier, you can find an outlier. An outlier is a number that is much higher or much lower than the rest of your data. So I can just look at these. I mean, what you could do is put them all in order, and you'd have 8 over here on the end, and then your next highest value is 20, and then most of your values are in the 20. Actually, the rest of your values are in the 20s or 30s. You can see 8 is your outlier because it's so much less than the rest of the values. 19. When Charlie ran 6 miles, his mean time per mile was 5.4 minutes. That means the average time it takes him to run a mile is 5.4 minutes. Charlie can book. He must be really fast. So we're going to use this mean to kind of guess how long it'll take him to run 26 miles. So we'll take his average, 5.4, and we'll multiply it by 26 miles. If he can keep that pace up for 26 miles, he is amazing. But don't think about that. So we take 26 times 5.4. We've got, that's 24, 8. Got a placeholder 0, 30, 10, 11, 12, 13, 4, 0. And since we had 1 decimal place, our answer also has 1 decimal place. So that is 140.4 minutes. That's like 2 hours and 20 minutes. Go Charlie. On number 20, I was just interested that you didn't have to graph them. I was interested in you being able to put these in order. So from least to greatest, it goes -19, -10, -7, -3, and then 9, and then 17. That's all of them. 21, we're using the order of operations here. You've got to remember your best friend in math, PEMDAS. We do all parentheses first, whatever's inside of a parentheses. And that means operations. That does not mean, like they'll show you a -6 sometimes. The only reason they do that is so that you know, like let's say I had this problem, 7 plus -6. The only reason that parentheses is there so that you know it's not like 7 plus -6. Plus -6, do I add then subtract? It doesn't. It's to not confuse you. So that when we say parentheses, we're not talking about this. We're talking about an operation inside parentheses. So if it was like 7 plus 2, we do this operation in the parentheses first. Then we've got our exponents, and then we do all multiplication or division before we do any addition and subtraction. So we've got 7 minus 3 times 2. We've got to do that multiplication first. So it's actually 7 minus 6, which equals 1. Here we've got to find the median, so we'd put all of them in order, starting from the smallest, which is 10, all the way to the largest, which would be 35, and then we'd order them. And for this problem, we had 19 and 22 were our two middle values, and since they were there was an even number of values, 10 values, we're going to take what's halfway between 19 and 22, and that turned out to be 20.5. The mode is just the number that comes up the most often in our set, and we have 75 coming up 1, 2, 3 times. Are there any other numbers that come up that frequently? No. 26, we're identifying the outlier, and that is the one that's much higher or much lower than the rest of the data. Looks like our outlier is 28 because we've got values in the 60s and a couple in the 80s and then one that's in the 20s. That one's definitely an outlier. Since this one is so much lower than the rest of our data, we got 60s and we got 80s. Since this one is so much lower, it's actually going to decrease the mean. Here's Charlie again, slowing down it looks like. He's got a 5.7 minute mile. He's going to run 21 miles, so 5.7 times 21. If we work that out, we get 119.7. And we finished the rest in class, so hopefully you feel like you're prepared for our test. Good luck, and thank you for watching.